What's up, YouTube? We are going to be live in about 60 seconds. We're just waiting for a couple of key guests for the show today, and we're going to rip. Today we're going to be demonstrating some pretty cool stuff, so stick around. So you want to know how to do a muscle up. Well, today we are going to talk about the difference between ring muscle ups and bar muscle ups. We pulled apart a ring muscle up yesterday, and today we're going to do a little bit of the same on the bar muscle up. We're also going to reveal a massive mistake that people are making when trying to learn to do their first muscle up. All that and more coming up right after this. We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
Hi everyone, in case we haven't met, my name's Rad Burmeister. I'm one of the co-founders of Unity Gym and co-creators of the Unified Movement System, or UMS, where we take driven people and turn them into superhumans. The way we get such amazing results with our members is we have a balance between strength and flexibility in our program. If you want to know how we do that, you can get started by downloading the free flexibility blueprint. There's a link in the description. As always, I'm joined by my brother Yanni Burmeister and Phil White, our resident physiotherapist.
Not always, because I've been missing in action for quite a long time. Today I actually have my son here who looks like he's about to make a guest appearance on the show. Turn around and say hello. There's a camera over there, buddy. All right. And yeah, he's off school sick today, so he's hanging out with us at the gym. You can just sit over there, bud, and help Uncle Richie out behind the camera. Now, today we're going to dive deep into a couple of cool things, and I'm going to attempt my first sort of bar muscle ups in quite some time. We'll see how that goes. It could be interesting. And we're going to talk about a couple of the key differences between bar muscle ups and ring muscle ups, because there are very big differences, and we sort of favour one more than the other for a few reasons that we'll go into later. But before I do, let's just find out how Phil is, because it is like a smoke screen outside, and he may have had to train in that this morning.
Yeah, I had volleyball at 6 a.m. this morning, and I was coughing up charcoal as I did it. There was like you could barely see the water. It was so smoky out there. But first day I decided not to ride in, because I just thought,
it's pretty full on around here. There's a lot of bushfires. Our thoughts go out to everyone involved in the bushfires. You want to sit in the middle here, do you? Oh, 1, 2, 3, and we'll go around there. Here's a little man, Kobe, and yeah. So for everyone fighting the fires, good on you, keep cracking, and for everyone affected by the fires, our thoughts go out to you.
Yeah, keen to hear from anyone who's given what we were talking about yesterday a go, some of those transition, a bit of the loading to the wrist and the false grip, and let us know how you felt with that. Was it like, did you take our advice and go slowly? Because if not, I imagine you're probably waking up today with a bit of pain. So let us know how you've gone with it so far, and we'll.
Yeah, absolutely. And question of the day is related to the kit, because there is one of the things we're about to go out and demonstrate is that it's actually a lot more difficult to do a strict bar muscle up than it is to do a strict ring muscle up. And the reason for that is because we can manipulate the shape and angle of the rings to suit the ergonomics of our shoulders and our body. We cannot do that on the bar, so we are limited to having to work around the bar. And what that means is it requires a lot more skill and brute strength. Your body has to really adapt to it, and it's something that takes a lot of work. So why don't we dive out onto the gym floor and have a crack at doing a few, and then we'll come back in and talk about it. We're going to show you a couple of really cool little hacks to use when you transition to the bar. So let's go out. I've got the mic today. I'm going to be demonstrating
I've got the camera today, so make sure you yell at me if I'm doing anything stupid.
Yeah.
Let me know.
So your thumb controls this bit here, and that's how you move it around. Yeah.
Cool.
If you, you're right.
Future.
If you pull the trigger, it'll lock it. So you just have a little play there, and yeah, the reason why we don't have Richie behind the camera today, guys, is because we're doing this whole thing on Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi signal we lose toward the end of the gym. So what Phil's going to do is he's going to get a video of me demonstrating a couple at the back, because the ceiling height is too close here and my head will go through the ceiling if I use these bars. And then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to demonstrate I'll break down the principles. So could you guys get rid of the bars here? Oh, I can demonstrate over there, I guess. And Phil, you should be all right to come up here, but if Richie gives you a yell and says to come back, it means that you've gone too far. I wouldn't go much further than that bench there.
Yeah,
so you guys will still be able to. You guys will still be able to see what I'm doing, just.
a bit better.
And then I'll come down and show you the technique. Okay. So the first thing that you're going to notice is that I do a little bit of a kip. It's obviously always going to be a pronated. I do apologise for the whatever this does to the mic, because I'm wearing a lapel mic. So as I go down here, my feet go out in front, and then I come up again. And there is I'm not good enough at doing a bar muscle up to do it perfectly without a kip. I haven't tried it for a long time, so I'm not going to even bother demonstrating it today. So let's break down what I'm doing there now on the front, where we have a little bit better camera. So the first thing I want to talk about is what we spoke about yesterday, which is the V-sit action. I'm going to get rid of this completely. So you would have seen there that my kip, it looks almost like I go into a little bit of a V-sit at the bottom there. And that's super important, because that's helping my body create the momentum to work around the bar. So what we teach our guys to do here is there's a point in front of your body that we call the button. I'll use a red weight plate to demonstrate that. When we're holding on to the bar, the button is the point where we can just not reach. So when I go to do my muscle up, I want to extend my body towards that button. And what that's doing is it's enabling me to use the full stretch reflex of the systems in my body, my muscles, my connective tissues, and it allows me to create more explosive force, so that when I go to do the pull-up, I'm able to generate much more explosive force on the way through. So that's the first key element. We find where your button is, and it's going to be different for everyone based on how high, how tall you are, how long your arms are, all sorts of stuff like that. The grip width out here is, it's really whatever you prefer. I'm used to doing it like this. So I walk forward just where my toes can't touch. That's where my button is, and that's how I generate my force, by going towards that button. The second thing I do, as I engage my scapula, I come up into that half V-sit position, which is generating a little bit of force through my core and abs, and then I pull through using the pull-up transition into the, what do we call, dip, front dip. To break that down, you have to be able to do, like Rad and I say, 8 to 10 really good quality chest to bar pull-ups first. Then we also have to be able to do 8 to 10 really good straight bar dips as well. Because as we spoke about yesterday, the connective tissues here need to be conditioned to be able to handle that transition. And it's brutal on the shoulders. Many a rotator cuff have been inflamed or seriously injured, getting pushed through that ballistic transition without having the conditioning. And I'm sure Phil's going to add to that when we go back inside. So the key elements to the bar muscle up are very similar to the ring muscle up, with the difference that we do need to teach our body to go through that full stretch reflex cycle, because the bar, you have to go around. You can't go through it. Unlike on the rings, like I demonstrated yesterday, this is, if I go into a full extension here, this is actually really easy for me to transition because I can manipulate the rings. I can come to here, I can move through that transition very easily because you can see me manipulating the rings. Let's go back inside and we'll have a chat about it. But with the bar, obviously you can't bend the bar. You can't change the angle of the bar. So the bar is going to expose your weaknesses very, very quickly. All right, are you going to join me again? I'm covered in chalk. That's all right. Okay, so the first thing, in my opinion, and I'll get Rad to comment on this, is for me, I find the bar muscle ups a lot more challenging and more risky as well, because you have to have a lot more, I think, strength in the rotator cuff and conditioning in the rotator cuff to do them, and to do them without risk. They are something that I have hurt myself on. I've hurt myself doing bar muscle ups, hurt my rotator cuff when I wasn't warmed up enough. And ring muscle ups I prefer because there's that instability mechanism, and that's a really cool thing to develop in your arms and your shoulders and your elbows. What do you think?
I reckon the bar muscle up's a waste of time.
Yeah, really?
Personally, in all honesty, I think the amount of work that's required to be able to do them well versus what it actually does for you and what you get out of it, I just think it's such a waste of time, and that's why I stopped doing it. I think the ring muscle up is amazing because the ring muscle up is very, very useful, and it leads to other things.
Yep.
Like it gets you up to the rings, and it leads to some really amazing ring routines that are very, very good, and I prefer the rings to a bar for a more advanced apparatus to be training on and to be putting your time into, and I think that's a very good use of your time. But for the time invested versus the payoff that you get out of your body, I think a bar muscle up is just a waste of time. I think there's so many other cool things that you could do. Now, if you're a bar brute and that's your thing and that's what you want to do, you want to train down at Bondi Beach and train on the bars, then go for it. You know, I'm not taking that away from you. Like, that becomes like a sport and it becomes a thing that you do, and the bar muscle up is kind of like the entry level to doing that kind of stuff, that bar brutes thing. And if that's you, then do it. I'm not ragging on it. I'm just saying, for me, I think it's a waste of time. If you want to have a much more generalized approach to training like what we do, like we train for 2.5 to 3 hours a day, and I can barely fit what I want to do in that time. I can't fit what I want to do in that time. And when I learned how to do bar muscle ups, and I think at my best I was doing, I don't know, sets of 5 reps or something like that. Man, the amount of work that I had to put into it. And then I just got to that point where I thought, well, where does this really go to? Like, what does it really do? And like, if you want to go beyond a bar muscle up and you want to go into where you do bar routines, like, where do you go? Do you start doing bar routines? And then when you do bar routines, that's really all just the calisthenic stuff anyway. You know, you learn how to do front levers and things like that. And so that's my honest feedback on it. I just think, like, for you, you're so you've got so much brute strength that it was easier for you. But for me, it wasn't like that. For me, I had to work really. And even with you, I remember how much work you put into those bar muscle ups. There were times where for 6 months on Bedtime Strength Days, you were pretty much just doing bar muscle ups,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, absolutely.
And what you got out of it is awesome. You know, you can do bar muscle ups now, but you know, is it really that worthwhile?
Yeah.
For me, it's not.
I enjoy, and I'll just throw my 2 cents in before Phil jumps in, because I'm sure there's a lot that you can add to this discussion. I enjoy bar muscle ups sporadically for speed power development, and that's it. I don't like doing really explosive kipping muscle ups on the rings like the guys in CrossFit do. Not that I think that it's wrong. It's just that I have hurt myself doing muscle ups before, doing really high repetition ballistic muscle ups. It's very easy to destroy a rotator cuff doing them, and I've done it before. And I was battling with a shoulder injury for about 5 or 6 months. And I just think that, like, if you're going to do explosive work, they're awesome. The bar muscle up for that. But it's a high risk movement. You know, it's just you just got to weigh up risk versus reward and what you want to do. And I agree with Rad. You get more for your money or your time doing ring muscle ups because of the additional stability training that your body has to go through. And remember, we've gone deep on this. The shoulder is a dynamic stability system. It loves instability, and therefore it loves the rings. It responds really well to them if you progress nicely. I'm sure you've got something to add to that.
Yeah, basically, like a lot of the same points. It is that kind of risk reward thing. If you like, as Yanni, who's a bloody strong dude, was demonstrating there, like to get that bar muscle up, you are adding in that kip, and when you're adding in that kip, there's just a bit more potential strain on the passive structures, because when you're sort of losing that control by using momentum, then you've got to, you know, you're going to be stressing those a little bit more, and there's potential for risk for injury. So, as Yanni was saying, like great for developing power through the upper body, but I guess there's not too many, like, I mean, with rowing, maybe you really want that sort of power development through upper body. But a lot of sports that's sort of not as relevant. So and if you are adding lots of bar muscle ups into it, then you the risk of injury that comes with that is potentially going to put you out from the sport. So there's so many other ways that you can develop power through your upper body. But yeah, if you want to do down at the Bondi bars, then go nuts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I really liked with the rings how Yanni was showing that you can really get that control through that transition. Like that all comes down to just that strength and control, which, as we've talked about so much with the shoulder, if you can get that strength through that full range, then you're going to develop really strong, pretty bulletproof shoulders.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of really good questions here. Michael P has said, I've seen Daniel Vadnel do a bar muscle up with a false grip and no kip. What a beast. Though I'm not too sure how a false grip is held on a bar. Yeah, man, Daniel Vadnel is a beast. He's awesome. I started learning calisthenics years ago from him. He was the first videos I ever watched. It's the same as rings, except like if this is the bar, you're just going to grab onto the bar and you've just got to hook your hand right over and kind of turn it like that. So you don't actually end up holding the bar in your whole grip like that. You only really end up holding it between your thumb and your finger and your wrist like that, and you just reef onto it as hard as you can. It's very tough.
It is absolutely possible, and it's just a little bit more uncomfortable. It's just a little bit more uncomfortable. I don't know if you can see the pressure points on my wrist there, where the rings are. The bar takes a piece out of your wrist when you do it. Like it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So you have to have that tissue. Phil mentioned yesterday the cartilage pad that's in there. Is that what you said? Yeah. Like it bruises if you're not conditioned to it, and if you dive into those bar strict muscle ups without having like brutal strength in the wrist there, then it hurts. It hurts a lot, so and you open yourself up.
Plenty of time holding, like doing bar transitions there, but also the wrist prep stuff that's part of the Unity warm up is a really nice way of starting to develop that stretch strength through your wrist.
Yeah. And guys, like I'm going to big note myself here. Rad, myself, and Richard have done so much wrist conditioning, and I can do a handstand on my wrist, on the back side of my wrist. We have that much conditioning. We take it to that level, and we still experience tendinopathy issues in our forearms from time to time. So if you haven't put the years of wrist training into your body and you go and attempt this sort of stuff, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I reckon you're guaranteed to experience an injury.
Yeah, and you can't. It sucks, but you can't fast track the process. If you make a decision one day that you want to do calisthenics and you've never conditioned your wrists, you've got years ahead of you of conditioning work. This isn't something that's going to happen in a couple of months. And don't let that deter you, because you're going to live out the rest of your life doing whatever you do. And if you do something that you enjoy and it takes you 3 to 5 years to get to the level that you want to be able to do the really cool stuff, so be it. But one day you'll be able to do it, and you'll have like all these people that can do these amazing movement skills. None of them did it in a year or two. They've all got a 10, 15, 20 year background of training.
I'm glad Michael mentioned Daniel, because if you can actually go back, Daniel's still got all his original videos up on his YouTube channel. He's been posting videos from the start for 10 years now.
Yeah.
He's been practicing Cali for 10 years. Now, Rad and I and Richie have only really started in the last 2 years. We're absolute novices in comparison to that. We were doing a lot of strength training before that. Rad was doing a lot of martial arts before that and things like that. But in the grand scheme of like calisthenics, we've hung out with Dan before, and he is an absolute beast. He pales in our ability at the moment, in calisthenics. In weightlifting, I'd probably outlift him in a lot of lifts, but in calisthenics, no chance.
Yeah, he's a weapon.
Yeah.
So Aidan Potts is saying, "What's up, guys? Tuning in from Toronto, Canada. What's up, Aidan? Thanks for tuning in, brother." And Jasper O'Kearney has asked a question that I think I just answered already, which is, do you think muscle ups are worth it considering the risk for injury and the fact they don't have a great carryover into strength? Well, I just said everything that I think about that opinion. I think ring muscle ups are absolutely worth it, but everything that we just said, we've already answered that question. You've got to be ready for it. It's got to be something that you condition yourself for. And if your body, this is my honest opinion on training. Training should be that you should always look for doing the next thing that your body needs to continue to getting better. But you should always do the thing that you need right now more than anything. And that's where people go wrong. So people say, I want to do a muscle up, but their wrists aren't worth it. They shouldn't even be looking at doing a muscle up. They should be looking at conditioning the wrists. And when your wrists are ready, then you go, okay, let's try a muscle up. My elbows aren't strong enough. I need work on my biceps. Okay, work on strengthening your biceps and your shoulders. And then when your body is ready for the muscle up, do the muscle up. Go for it.
Yeah,
instead of doing it sort of like step by step as well, like you can start breaking down the components of the muscle up as we talked about yesterday. We've got to have the pulling strength with the pull-ups, your scapular conditioning. So breaking all those parts down and working on them and building up over time. So
exactly.
It's just like classic regression and progression that we keep talking about.
Exactly.
I'll add to that. I love muscle ups, and I actually think they're an incredibly functional movement pattern. Because I like climbing and doing things in the real world outside, and I can name more than 2 handfuls of times when I've gone, oh geez, I'd love to be able to get up onto that rock or to climb up to over that branch, and I can just hold on and do a muscle up onto it like with ease. And my friends are always like, far out, that's retarded. But I think it's a functional movement pattern for that reason in the real world, So I disagree that it doesn't carry over to strength. It doesn't maybe carry over to a deadlift or a squat or maybe a bench press. Arguably, I think it probably would. But in the real world, when you walk outside of the gym and you don't have a barbell or dumbbells, it certainly carries over, and that's why I like it so much. But I get what you're saying, like risk versus reward. If you're not someone who goes and plays around in the park outside, or you don't do rock climbing, things like that, then it might not be...
not readying yourself for a zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, that's right. See, Rad, Richie and I are preparing ourselves for the zombie apocalypse, and we want to be able to...
He's going to volleyball them to death.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's why I do all that swimming training. What do you think I'm doing?
I'm just going to the ocean.
I think parkour is a big thing right now. So if there's any parkour listeners out there, like muscle ups are a thing that they do.
Yeah, Rich is saying parkour is a really big thing now, and if you're a parkour dude watching this, then muscle ups are absolutely a thing that you do. It's not just that, muscle ups are cool as fuck. So they are. They're one of those. I remember when I could not do a muscle up to save my life, and I said, right, I am going to do this until I can do it. When I finally did, because to me it was, this was way back when I was transitioning from martial arts into wanting to learn strength training, and I was looking at the things that I wanted to do, and I said, man, I want to be able to do a muscle up. Like a muscle up looks cool, and it's one of those things that to me, it's a real... you know, it separates the novices from the more advanced people, you know, like when you can do a muscle up, you're in that higher level of people. And when I got my first muscle up, it was one of the greatest achievements I've ever had in my movement journey. It was one of those milestones for me. So you can't deny that. And I think that that's a really important part of movement training, is to be motivated to want to do more things. So, you know, going back to your question, Jasper, you know, do we think that muscle ups are worth it? Absolutely, I really do. You just need to do it the right way, and that's where people go wrong.
And we are huge fans, and this is something that's a little different about the UMS program. We're huge fans of building a baseline of strength first before you start dabbling into this stuff, because it comes easier and safer. Now, my inflection point, my tipping point was in 2015 when I was in the USA, and we were visiting Venice Beach in California for a few days, and I at that point was like into bodybuilding and powerlifting, and I was stiff as fuck, and I could hardly, like, if you asked me to demonstrate my strength outside of the gym, there was nothing I could do. You'd need to give me a barbell or a set of dumbbells or a kettlebell, and then I could show you something. There was absolutely nothing I could do outside of the gym that would demonstrate my strength, except looking buff on the beach. And I did look pretty good, you know. And I went down, we had a look at the outdoor gym, the famous gym on Venice. We'd done a workout that morning in Gold's Gym, just around the corner. And then I saw these guys in the background on the calisthenics set up out on the sand, and I was just like, holy crap. We watched them for about 45 minutes, and then when they all took off for lunch or to have a swim or something, I jumped up there and tried to do a few things that they were doing, and I didn't have a chance in hell of pulling something off. And if I tried, and I was there in front of my girlfriend Kalisha, and we had Kobe in a pram, 3 months old, and I just felt like a useless sack of crap. I was like, what's the point of all this muscle mass if I can't even pull myself up on these things? Like, these guys were just making it look easy. And that I really thought about that for a long time, and came back and said, all right, I'm going to start going down this rabbit hole of calisthenics and see if I can turn my strength into something that I could demonstrate outside of the gym. And that's how it started for me, yeah. And it's a rewarding path. It's good fun. You know, it's nice to be able to demonstrate real functional strength, you know. Rad's going to look at the questions that we've got that have come through overnight. There's been a fair bit of engagement. And if you guys have any other questions about muscle ups or pull ups for that matter, the conditioning processes, how to break them down, what your preference is. What do you like doing? Do you like doing bar muscle ups more? Do you like doing ring muscle ups more? We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, cool. Look, we've got a couple of people giving us a couple of shout outs, which is great. On the 10-minute lower body warm up, we've got, man, I'm so in love with your content, so informative, it's great. Thanks a lot, mate. You deserve so much more subscribers. That's coming from Alexis Gaborit. Thank you so much, Alexis.
Give us all the subscribers.
Hey,
we're almost at 15,000, guys. Get some friends to sub. Yep. We want to hit 15,000 before Christmas. Come on, let's go.
That'd be unreal. On the how to increase overhead mobility step-by-step guide, RA has said, please do a video about starching if you don't have one yet. I think proper starching is super important. I'm really confused here because you've actually written starching twice, so it's not like there was just a mess up.
It's got to be non-English is the first language. Is not. I don't think English is the first language.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they're wanting to starch their clothes.
No, you guys tell us. Is there something in the exercise world called starching that we haven't heard of over here in Australia?
It's to do with washing clothes for sure. And I know that we look great on this show, so I'm happy to give away some tips. If we can get enough input, I'll let you know how I starch my clothes, and we'll do a video on it for you. Maybe we can do a week-long series on it. I can only imagine you want to do stretching, so please do a video about stretching if you don't have one yet. Spend 2 minutes looking at our channel, and you'll find about 80 videos on stretching.
More than that.
Maybe
we've got about 300.
Yeah. So yes, we've done a lot of videos on stretching. None on starching yet, but you've made me think.
All right, guys, that's all we have time for today. Thank you, as usual, for joining us. And tune in tomorrow, and hopefully I will demonstrate a 60-second muscle up.
And your shirt looks like it needs a bit of starch. I think I'm going to go and... See you later, everyone.
performance, not just body image.
You better be willing to accept what you're going to have to do to get there.
We'll start focusing on movement goals, strength goals, flexibility goals.
When you nail that skill, it's there forever.
The body image goal doesn't get you that
It's
far.
the consistency and frequency that's going to get you there. It's not the intensity.
There's no shortcuts to mastery and movement. Destination doesn't change overnight, but your direction will.
The gym is not the place to beat up the body that you hate. It's the place to build the body that you love.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.